Hello everyone, welcome to another podcast. My name's Ben Lister. Welcome to episode 27 of the Ben Lister podcast radio show today. Today's interview is with Raymond Rose. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome to another Chatterbox podcast. It's episode 28. Sorry about the numberage. It's episode 28. How are you doing today? Right, let's crack on. As you know, each week I have a guest to talk about their career or job, so let's crack on with it, shall we? With this week's guest. It's broadcaster and he's a legend. It's Raymond Rose. Hello Raymond, how are you?
Hello Ben, how are you? I'm fine.
I'm a bit jaded due to the heat, but I'm fine.
Well, it's better than it being cold, isn't it?
Yeah, it's British summertime.
Well, rejoice in it. We don't get it good that often, so rejoice in it, I would say, you know.
Yeah. How are you feeling today?
All right. Yeah, not bad. Been a bit of a busy day, one way or another, but yeah, I'm okay. You know, just a bit like you, a bit hot and bothered this morning with the heat, bit humid, but it's all right. It's okay. We're all right. Yeah.
That's good. 5 questions about radio and broadcasting, if that's okay with you.
Of course.
You ready to rumble in the jungle?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
That was 1985, and it was a radio station in North Wales called Marcher Sound, which became MFM and is now Heart. No, it's not. It's Capital actually now, but that's where it started. It was October 1985. Radio station for Wrexham and Chester, which was called Marcher Sound.
The Capital Network.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't then. It became the Capital Network, but when I was there, it was just a local station. It was a full service station, meaning that we broadcast both on FM and AM, exactly the same programs. And then in 1989, Marcher Sound was the first radio station in the UK to split frequencies. So provided FM and AM separate programs. It wasn't 24 hours a day, but I think it initially started out from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then overnight they joined together. But it was the first radio station to split their frequencies.
Wow. Have you ever... Yeah, it's brilliant that... Have you ever been inside the main Capital headquarters at London in Leicester Square?
Nope, I've never been there.
Nice. Question 2. Who were your inspirations in broadcasting growing up?
Well, as a very young person, there were no independent local stations. So the people that influenced me in the early days, probably more than anything, was Tony Blackburn and another fine presenter who you may have heard of called Paul Burnett. Both Tony and Paul, I thought, were exceptional broadcasters, both on Radio 1 at the time. Weekends, I used to be a guy at the weekend, sadly no longer around, a Scottish guy called Stuart Henry. He was a phenomenal broadcaster too. So I would say in the early days that there were 3 that really stood out for me: Tony Blackburn, Paul Burnett, and Stuart Henry.
Yeah, and also John Peel as well.
Yes, John Peel was. I was never really into John Peel because I didn't quite understand the stuff he was playing. Therefore, I didn't really listen. But that is not to downplay the influence that he's had. He was for that type of audience and for playing something alternative and not mainstream. He was an incredible inspiration for so many people, but he just wasn't one of mine because I wasn't into the alternative scene. You see,
He played. He was. I'd call him Mr. Glastonbury.
Yeah, you associate John Peel with big gigs of that size. He's the first person that automatically springs to mind, although it's been a few years now since he was around. But yeah, I'm with you. There's that marriage, isn't there, of Glastonbury and John Peel. I would agree with that.
We touched on Tony Blackburn a couple of seconds ago. Have you got a story for us about Mr. Tony Blackburn?
No stories as such. I used to cover for I have got a good story about Tony Blackburn. When Tony worked at Magic, if Tony was ever off, I would do his show. And I did one of his shows, did 20 minutes of his show as Tony Blackburn, because I could do a fairly good impersonation. And I did the first 20 minutes as Tony, and then I just couldn't, I couldn't no longer do it because I was just laughing so hard. I just couldn't carry on doing it, and I ended up losing it. But the week after, when Tony came back, Tony's regular listeners had said that I'd been impersonating him on air doing his show, and I think Tony's response was, "Well, that's absolutely fabulous. I tell you what, he can do it every week as long as I get the money." So, far from being offended by it, he found it really quite funny that I'd impersonated him for 20 minutes. Few people knew it was him, but it was like, yeah, you do it every week, providing I get the money. So yeah, he took it all great spirit. He's a lovely guy. He's one of the nicest people in broadcasting you could ever wish to meet. He's just a total gentleman.
He's good friends with a lot of them, and he does a cheesy quote as well. As I said, he's just a lot of friends with a lot of musicians as well.
Oh yeah, Tony's an absolute legend. You know,
he had Tony Hadley on his show the other month, his network show.
Oh yes, yeah. And well, Tony Hadley's, he's always good value.
He's a radio presenter in his own right.
Who, Tony Hadley?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was on Absolute 80s for a bit. Oh
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I do recall someone telling me that. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and his former bandmate Martin Kemp's been picked up by Bauer.
Oh, that's a recent story, that, isn't it?
Yeah, that I shared on the social yesterday. He's been picked up by Bauer, and he's off to talk to some legends in music.
Right.
For greatest hits.
Right.
Because Martin Kemp knows a lot about music.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, yeah, you would think so. He was very much part of the 80s, wasn't he?
Spandau, is it?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spandau Ballet. Yes.
Yeah, because our colleague Darren Leatham, he does an 80s show. Plays stuff like Talking Heads, Tears for Fears.
I see. Yeah. The more credible part.
Do you ever listen to any of them too?
Not particularly. I did a Network 80s show for the Wireless Group and Scottish Sun 80s, which...
did you ever play any Talking Heads?
Well, it was an 80s show. So, yes.
It's good. I like Phil Collins as well. He was good in the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Well, Phil Collins, he made his solo debut in the 80s with Face Value, of course.
and Two Hearts, which your good friend Tony Blackburn appeared in the music video.
Well, Two Hearts, wasn't that from the soundtrack to the Buster movie?
Yeah, but Tony Blackburn made a cameo in the music video.
Really? I didn't know that. Well, there you go.
He
That's
also
something I've
made
learned
a
today.
cameo in the Wurzels, I Am a Cider Drinker.
God. Right, okay. Oh dear.
I didn't know that until I watched the video back again. The only reason I recognised him was because of his voice.
Right, okay.
In Phil Collins' Two Hearts, because he was introducing Phil Collins like a Top of the Pops style. I'm not sure if Tony ever presented Top of the Pops.
Oh, Tony presented Top of the Pops quite a lot.
Yeah, that's good. Question 3. What is your favourite part about the job?
The listener. I mean, you can never underestimate the relationship between a presenter and the listener. And it's quite a privilege, the fact that a listener lets you into their home, in effect. They let you into their lives. They share all sorts of things with you, joyous occasions, also sadness. And it's quite a privilege that through the medium of radio, that a listener feels they can trust you that much to engage with you on that level. It's quite remarkable. So a relationship with the listener is first and foremost in my mind. And if you can have that commonality of music, it's music, you see, it is understandably the universal language of the people. And it's the music and the relationship with the music and the listener that the whole thing is quite a nice mixture. And that is my favorite part of the job, the relationship with the listener.
Brilliant. The listeners are the thing that matters. They're the engine of the program.
Absolutely.
Do you ever get listeners call in?
Oh yeah. I mean, what I do, the style of radio I do is very, very much interactive. It's something which I suppose is a little bit of a rarity these days, because the big players, the people who've swallowed up all the small radio stations, the Globals and the Bowers, interaction is not something that they particularly do anymore.
Care about?
It's not, well, I don't know what their thinking is, but it's certainly something they don't do.
They don't. And that's what makes me a bit annoyed with these sort of big radio stations, because they don't care about the local area.
Well, no, because they simply can't do justice to the local area when they're a network. However, if their output is really good, do you think a listener, do you think the average listener cares whether it's a network or it's local?
Nah. No, I don't think they do. They just look.
No, I don't think they do either. It's nice to sort of say, oh, you know, truly local radio and a service to the community, but that is not what the big players do anymore. That's not their bag. I mean, that can be fulfilled by the many community radio stations which are out there. And there's a lot of online stations which would claim to serve the community. The problem is there's too many of them.
Yeah. That's the problem when the big guns
but they can't they're not a viable business model. That's the problem.
It's
There's
a bit
hundreds
like,
and hundreds of
sorry,
radio stations, but they're not making money.
it's a bit like when ITV had all their separate areas
Yeah, that's
back
true.
in the
Yeah.
day. And then Carlton and Granada pitched up and bought them individually, and then Carlton and Granada became one big ITV.
That's right. And they have their relevant opt-outs to serve the area, but they're probably a lot more profitable as a result. And it's a business. And a business has an obligation to make money.
The only thing they have, the only thing they have differently to different TV shows is just the news that's different, really, and some programs.
Yeah, that's true. But generally speaking, the output is the same wherever you go.
And then you get the same news as well, the same national news and stuff.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway, question 4. How has COVID affected your life and line of work?
Well, it didn't really affect me to a great degree, because when COVID started, I was traveling to Stoke-on-Trent to do my evening show on the 80s evening show on the network.
Yeah.
And the option was, do you want to work from home? And I said, well, I don't really want to work from home, because working from home is not truly live. You're recording ahead of yourself, albeit a few minutes, but it's not truly live. And that's why I didn't want to do it. So when the lockdown happened, I was able to travel to Stoke-on-Trent as normal. Yeah. There were only 3 people in the building for 12 months, but it suited me. The roads were quiet. There was no one in the radio station. So it was really quite bizarre. So in that regard, COVID did not affect my working day at all.
So you weren't,
as normal.
You weren't told to shield then?
To shield, no.
Fair.
When you went into the radio station, there was adequate protection. There was hand sanitizer. The cleaners were in there every day, even though there were only 3 people in the building. The cleaners were doing a remarkable job, making sure everything was wiped down and sanitized.
So was there about 3 presenters, or?
That was it, 3 presenters, yeah.
No producers?
No, I think there were a couple of journalists, but they were in during the day when I wasn't. So
it was just you and a couple of presenters.
That was it, yeah.
Wow, brilliant. And did you take your own equipment to the studio?
No, the only thing if I'm working from somebody else's studio, the only thing I have is I just take my own headphones. Apart from that, you don't need anything else.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And question 5, last question on the list. What advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Be yourself. Be true to yourself. It's very easy and very convenient when you admire somebody and you've got somebody who's a big influence with you, on you. It's quite easy to sort of almost try and do it the way they do it. And if you're not careful, you can end up sounding a little bit like them in terms of style. And when someone's picked up on that, it's it's not a good position to be in, because at some point the mask will slip and you will be yourself and you'll carve out your own little niche. So I would say be yourself from the off. Don't try and impersonate anyone else. Be yourself from the word go.
That's brilliant, Ray. That's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, Raymond.
It's a pleasure, Ben. It's been lovely talking to you too. And good luck in your broadcasting career as well.
Thank you very much. Do join me again soon for another podcast. But for now, please give it up for Raymond Rose. Thank you very much for listening. And that's a wrap. That was my interview with Raymond Rose. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it filled a gap in your time. Don't forget, I'll be uploading my interview with Darren Spence later on tonight, so stick around for that and I'll talk to you soon. BL out, and that's a wrap.